This meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. First order of business are the minutes dated May 21st. Or a recommendation or motion to approve. Any discussion, corrections, or additions to those minutes? Being none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, minutes approved. Before we get to our regular agenda, we did have one of our commission members resign. He is a family situation where he has a chance to move closer to his spouse's family. And Mr. Thomas Grimm will no longer be with us, and we thank him for all the service he gave the city and the commission, and the time that he gave the city that he essentially took from his family, and we appreciate that. And I'm sure his wife is happy. So we wish him well in Florida. The first order of business on our regular agenda is a preliminary plat. It's to consider a request for a preliminary plat for Fishers Interstate Second Edition. The site is generally located north of the I-94 Business Loop East by 29th Avenue East. Property is approximately 0.03 acres. This time I'd ask the party presenting, please come forward.
Okay. I'm John Wilsick from KLJ. I'm representing Wesley Truck Center. The plat, as shown, is being created to alleviate some of the problems at the intersection of 29th Avenue East and I-94 Loop. 29th Avenue East access to I-94 Loop is being adjusted to the east, and 29th Avenue is being extended north to the plat line. The adjustment will correct a traffic management problem by increasing Dakota Diner's parking lot size, but closing off their southeast entrance. All lots in the plat will still abut public and private streets. The plat is entirely within the city limits of the city of Dickinson. Since 2012, there have been several meetings with surrounding landowners affected by the plat changes. In fact, some of the changes are being driven by one of the property owners, which is the Wesley Truck Center. The actual plat is being redone by the Fisher Group, so, or Badlands LLC. What we had down at the I-94 Loop and Dakota Diner was there was, if you've been out there at all, 29th Avenue and their driveway conjoin right at the highway. It creates a problem, and it's, I think eventually it was going to be a problem with the DOT. This will kind of help take care of at least one of the driveways in that area that has been a problem. Realize there's 3 of them crowded together there, but I think in the end everybody will benefit. So this also, we need to redo this plat in order to take care of the parking lot of Dakota Diner, which is actually built partially on the right-of-way. And what we're doing is by taking this sliver out of the right-of-way, that will be turned over to Dakota Diner, but we will close off that entrance. And then we'll be able to construct 29th Avenue. I know the Wesley Truck has been trying to get this road built for a couple of years, so this is kind of the first step. If we can get this plat through, then we can work on the rest of it. So if there's any questions or comments.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple for Mr. Wilsick. On the plat itself, whenever, if we recommend approval this morning, which I presume will be the case, I would recommend that you would change 29th Avenue as it's reflective of the existing one going to the east and up north. Just remove those sections because I would think the 29th is going to be changed. The 29th will go through Lot 1, but everything to the east will be a different street and a different avenue, so don't put that on the plat.
Okay.
And then also, you've seen the conditions that are outlined in the staff report. Rename the plat, instead of just a replat, rename it as Fisher's Interstate Third Edition, and just have the legal description as part of the replat as one paragraph, and then put "and" down below that, put the new title for that was outlined within the staff report. Other than that, I think the main reason for that I made a call that it had to go through the subdivision regulations is because Lot 1 is now a new road adding to that. We made a call about a year and a half ago that on any plat, if you're adding roads that is not depicted within an existing subdivision, you have to go through the subdivision process. So that's the reason for that.
Thank you, Mr. Croton. Any other questions or comments for Mr.
You
Wolf?
know, Mr. Chairman, just one other detail suggestion. That little sliver where 29th meets Highway 10, I wonder if you shouldn't add a note there to make it real clear that's being dedicated as a street on the, on the east side of that intersection, that sliver.
Okay.
Just to make sure there's no doubt about that's the intent, right? Is to
Yes,
dedicate
it
that as a street. Just a detail thing.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Molzak. This time I'd ask if there's anyone in the public who'd like to make comment on this preliminary plat. Please feel free to come to the podium. And anyone from the commission wish to make further comment? Mr. Croton, I assume we have a recommendation from the city?
Yes, we recommend approval. This is a project that's been ongoing for probably at least a year or so of discussions between the various businesses. So we would like to see this issue resolved and approved today.
Thank you. This time I'd ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the Fishers Interstate Third Edition preliminary plat with staff recommended conditions of approval as meeting all the requirements of the Dickinson Municipal Code and also being in the interest of the public health, safety, and welfare.
Is there a second to that motion? Second by Mr. Kovash. Any discussion? If being none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Recommend approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we continue, I should have mentioned it, I'm sorry at the start, but unless someone here is not aware that item 3, a rezone petition on our regular agenda has been withdrawn. That party will not be presenting. Item 2, we have a final plat to consider a request for a final plat for Badlands Storage Subdivision. The site is north of 29th Street West and zoned community commercial. The property is approximately 3.86 acres. I'd ask the party presenting, please feel free to come forward.
Good morning, Commissioners. Steve Rude with AE2S, and we have nothing to present here. I think we've met all the conditions of the preliminary plat. At least that's what the staff report said, and so I'll answer any questions you might have.
Any questions this time for Mr. Rude? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This time I'd ask if there's anyone from the public who would like to make comment on this final plat. Please feel free to come forward. Any further comments from the commission? Mr. Croton?
We would recommend approval and like to see this project move forward.
Thank you. This time I'd ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the final plat as meeting all of the requirements of the Dickinson Municipal Code and also being in the interest of public health, safety, and welfare.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Elkin. Any further discussion? If being none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Rude. Item 4 on our regular agenda is a final plat. It's to consider a final plat for the Karski subdivision. Site is generally located in the northwest quarter of Section 36, Township 140 North, Range 96 West. Site's approximately 5 acres, and at this time I'd ask the party presenting, please feel free to come forward.
Morning, Commissioners. Curtis Freeman with KLJ. This was before you last month, and there was one change that was requested with a 40-foot easement along the east side. We've added that easement. Other than that, there hasn't been any changes. Mr. Karski, he'd just like to get it so his daughter could put a house there.
Thank you very much. Any questions at this time, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I was
Yes,
just
Mr. Coogan.
wondering, and maybe I missed the note, if we could call out clearly what the 40-foot, I believe it's just an access easement, or a road easement for parcel, or Lot 1, Block 1. If we could clarify that on the plat.
Okay.
Mr. Kubis, the purpose of the 40-foot easement is in the city's long-range plan. It identifies that as that road is being a proposed collector, and the easement is being placed in there in case sometime in the future, if that road is ever built, the 40 feet will be there.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think the differentiation that's trying to be made, though, is that I think the immediate intent is that it's an easement solely for the owner of that lot, of that parcel, correct? I think that's the intent today. So all that's going to do is going to keep any construction off that 40 feet. In the
Correct.
future, it would still have to be dedicated.
Yes, that's correct, but at least it's got it now so that nothing can take place on that, so that's the intent of it. So if that road is ever built sometime in the future, the 40 feet nothing will be on it.
Will that be perfectly clear then in the future for someone looking at that if things go forward? Is that going to be clear enough?
Well, I think that's Mr. Kubis's point, is that we need to
Put a note,
clarify
would it help to put a note on their 40-foot easement for future right-of-way?
I think that would be an acceptable note.
Okay, then I would recommend that when we go forward with this, there be a condition or mention in the approval that note be made. So when the final plat comes in, it'll say 40-foot easement for future right-of-way.
We can work with the applicant and get that language correct to satisfy the city.
Sounds good. I agree.
That sound good to you?
That sounds good to me.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If there's anyone else in the public who'd like to make comment on this final plat, please feel free to come forward. What's your opinion? Being none, is there any other comments from the commission? Mr. Josephson, I assume that's a recommendation then?
Recommendation of
What I've heard.
approval, and we will work with the applicant to make that note on the 40-foot easement, before that's signed and recorded to state that 40-foot easement will be for future right-of-way.
Thank you. This time I'd ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Elkin.
I move the City of Dickinson Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the minor subdivision plat for the Karski subdivision as depicted in the materials as meeting the requirements of the Dickinson Municipal Code and being in the interest of the public health, safety, and welfare.
there a second to that motion?
A second.
Second, Kuvash. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Recommend approval. Thank you very much. Anybody else have anything else they would like to bring forward right this time?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to, we had talked at the last meeting about a work session. I don't have anything in particular. If we want to go over some more issues, we can, as an impromptu one if you like. But next month, I will provide a summary for some of the members that didn't go through the whole entire comprehensive plan. It'd be beneficial to, in a good refresher course. I'm going to be giving a presentation on transportation and land use issues as part of a DOT presentation to elected officials sometime in August. So I'm going to be working on a presentation. This dovetails really well within that, so you could be my guinea pig on my presentation. So I'll provide you with a PowerPoint presentation, summary of the pros and cons, why we did the comprehensive plan, issues that were involved, and the rest. I think it'd be a good summary course with respect to that. I'll be working on that, so I'll provide that after our regular agenda. And any other issues that you want to talk about as part of a work session, we could add to that. So.
Thank you. This time, let's see if I can get a consensus for today, if anyone wishes to do a work session today, and how compelling it is. Would it be fine?
Well, I just wanted to, if nothing else, just follow up from our last meeting. We had talked about the possibility, or at least are you open to the idea of reduced lots contingent upon the development, and obviously working with staff and not having them along the periphery of development. I have mentioned that to one or two developers that have talked about that. A year ago, I would have told them no, that was not something that we would entertain. But at this point, I'm leaving that open. So it appears that we'll probably have a project or two come through as a PUD to have smaller lot sizes than normal based upon design criteria, renderings of the buildings, and so forth. So you feel that, if we're going to give a concession with respect to the lot size, we should know what the building's going to look like and how it functions within the developments itself. So as long as you haven't changed your mind from the last meeting, we may have a project come through in the next couple of months. So.
Yeah, I still think those would, the smaller lot sizes would work very well with, like you mentioned, design, materials, looks, quality. I still it comes back to mind some of the different drawings we'd seen from the Hulsing project. And I firmly believe if that project would have gone forward, the place would be totally filled up, sold out, whatever. And it was a nice rendering of a unique type of a PUD. And I think that was approximately 20 acres, that parcel. Right. And that, to me, is a place where quality and materials, looks, design, that would have been extremely acceptable for what you're mentioning. With the smaller lot sizes, people want to live in a real high quality facility or home, yet don't want a whole bunch of property to have to take care of.
Correct. And I think that as long as you put it towards the middle of the development and not on the periphery, adjacent properties, whenever they develop, if they want to develop at the regular standards at 7,500 square foot lots, then they're not going to be adversely impacted. They will have that buffer of at least a block of traditional lot sizes. So I think not everybody wants to have a big backyard. As you get older, you don't necessarily care about mowing your backyard as much as some people do. I mean, some people like the idea so they could have a garden, others don't as well. But if you come into a development knowing this is the case, if you don't like that, you just don't buy into the development. So I think that it's a way that we can work to get single-family housing onto the market, which is the dire need at this point, plus reduce the cost for those, reduce the cost potentially for that, which would be a good thing overall.
Would we limit the percentage of ground in a given subdivision that could be done with smaller lots, or?
Yeah, I'm not going to just go, yeah, put it on the periphery, and let's say you can have 100 R1 lots. We'll give you now 120 around the middle, and you only have to do 20 regular ones. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me doing it that way, unless there's some unique constraints to that, or they building a trail system, something that's pros and cons to the development. But
I just say that because if we open this up, we're gonna see requests for it. You know?
Well, absolutely. And they can bring that in, and you could say, I don't feel that a development should be 2/3 smaller lots. Keep it at 50% or 20%. It's like a lot of things, we can go slow with it. There's no reason that we have to go whole hog from the first application.
One of the things I'd be concerned about would be parking, would be off-street parking. I don't know if we start compromising.
Minimum of 2-car garages. That's the part that's the difficulty that I deal with, is how does it function in a northern environment where you have snow loads, you have bigger trucks than the normal cars that people use, without having additional parking spaces for the community. But when you have additional parking spaces, then you're eating up land, and you're requiring those to be paved, and it's kind of like, it's contrary to the idea of having potentially lots that are affordable. So it's a balancing act, and that's where the design would have to come into play. I think that additional ones should be used as a community, but not a whole, not a big extent to that. I do not want to have ones that have reduced lot sizes where the width of the front is going from 60 to 40, and there are only 1-car garages. You could drive around the community and see all the developments that have 1-car garages. They just spill over into the road. So maybe we have them reversed where they have alleys, and then they have the ability to increase parking if necessary on the back side of their lot. So there's variations to deal with that. I don't know if anybody else has any comments with respect to that.
Is there a problem getting to the quality of construction and materials? Is there an issue going from minimum standards to another level of standards, where to make the place more solid, more quiet, more insulated, whatever, that in a PUD, can you go up and above normal state construction standards?
You can, but then you defeat the purpose of affordable housing, for that. So, I mean, I think everybody's got to be aware of the building code is minimum standards to that. And the minimum standards for insulation and sounding, it's not a lot. I mean, if you just meet the basic standards, and Jason can contest, you could hear neighbors 2 or 3 units over in a townhouse if you just do the basic standards with insulation. If you want to make them more soundproof, you have to increase the materials and go from basic wood frames to brick or something else that is more of a sound barrier. But when you do that, you increase the cost. So that's a difficult one to do, and I don't know if Jason can shed some light with respect to that.
I'm not sure how we as a city could say they have to exceed what is the state code, building code. I don't see how you would ever enforce something like that. I mean, there's a minimum code for a reason, and as long as they're building to that, I don't know how we could say, you gotta build it better in this way or that way. I don't think it would be enforceable. I don't know how that would happen, so.
The only way that we could do that is they would have to submit complete building plans, and we would have to say, you want to do this, but I don't think we want to get to that level. I think the aesthetics of what they look like is a reasonable standard. To me, the difference between stick-built and modular, there's variations with respect to it, but you could build modular housing in a factory that has double the insulation and so forth. You could design them better than your traditional stick built. The problem you run into with those is that they look as modular housing unless you modify them at the factory with additional enhancements and then modify them when you get to the site. They will look like your traditional modular housing, and the market, those houses won't appreciate at the same extent as a stick-built house will be. So. But I'm glad that you're open to that idea, and that you have confidence in staff to work with people, and we can go from there. That's one way that we could hopefully get some more single-family housing on the market.
Anything else, anybody else would like to bring up on that issue?
So are you saying that we're open to modular housing and developments like that, or we're not?
No, we can't, unless we want to get into CC&Rs, which we do not want to do. We can't discriminate about, due to the Fair Housing Act, we can't discriminate between stick-built and modular housing. They're considered the same. Now, a development, as a developer, you could say no modular housing within my development. That's a private agreement that everybody agrees to, but as a city, we cannot discriminate between the two. And just to let you know, I've met with the Barron's Vista people. They are looking at August to come in potentially with their PUD. There's still a lot of issues that we need to work out. So they may be coming in August, August or September. I've talked to them that maybe they should come in on the August agenda and talk about their project and not ask for a motion, because they are trying different concepts. And maybe that would be better to just have a 20-minute presentation of their project, get your comments, and then come back in September with their final proposal. So I've suggested that. We'll see where they want to go.
It's good to hear. Is this, I don't think we'll ever get involved in it, I don't know, but the library, presidential library, is that fairly solid?
They are looking at some sites. Obviously DSU is one of them, and several other sites within the city as part of their consultant who's working with them. It will be in the Dickinson area as best we can tell. I mean, it will be in the Dickinson area. The question is, it will be in the city limits or maybe just outside, but I feel fairly confident it'll be within the city of Dickinson. Probably the highest probability will be at DSU, which makes sense to have it at a university. So, but they are moving forward. They've been on the agenda 3 times over in the last 2 months, 2 to 3 months on City Commission agenda, giving us updates with respect to that. So it's moving forward. Sounds great. It's going to be an incredible resource and asset for our community. It's going to be a tourist attraction as well. It's going to be one that's going to be a step above the others, because I think it's supposed to be 100% digital. It's going to be, I mean, they will have copies, obviously, of Theodore Roosevelt, but it's going to be all accessed electronically, and digital representations of documents and the rest that you can either, I believe you can do it from the internet, and then also you could come there as well. So it's going to be the next level of the presidential library, it appears. So it's going to be an incredible asset for us.
Mm-hmm. Just that most people in this area have lived here very long, are quite familiar with him as a president, and prior to his becoming a president. And he was probably the most prolific reader of all our presidents. He read he was addicted to reading. And he also liked the outdoors and the sky and the open prairies. And I think he would be appalled if he was looking at a light tower to the west.
I was wondering where that was going.
I thought you were going to throw in billboards in that one. So.
No. We've already heard about industry standards this morning, so. But I was just thinking about that one, about making Dickinson look like Singapore or New York. Now, Teddy might not object to looking like New York, because that's where he's from. But Singapore, I don't believe he wants the lights. I don't think he does, because he liked to ride the open range and see the night sky. I think that would make Teddy happy.
I'm glad you and Teddy commune together like that.
Yeah, yeah. So, he's a great guy to ride with. Anything else at this time?
One update I would have just for this board.
Sure.
As city staff, we're trying to set up a meeting. I think it's going to happen real soon with our energy committee. We've had an application for an oil well recently come in front of the city commission, but we still really don't have any hard and fast ordinance on the siting of oil wells, standards we might ask oil wells in our ETZ to comply to with respect to landscaping, things like that. So we're going to have a meeting with the Energy Committee, city staff. We're going to try and get someone from the North Dakota Industrial Commission at that meeting to develop some draft ordinance in regards to new oil wells in town, and we'll probably bring that in front of this board hopefully in the next couple months. So.
Good. Thank you. That's good to hear, because I know we've mentioned it over the last several years, what rights people have on sites that already exist within the city, and if they could come in and drill another well there or what. So it's good to hear. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.